in the forgotten heart of sector Orion 13, where the void is so dense that even light seems to hesitate. Something floats that should not exist, a station, no name, no registry, no history. It orbits a pulsing star called VY Delta, but for the few who dared to approach it, the scientific name was never enough. They call it the eye that waits. It's an anomalous, unstable star. Its brightness pulses with a rhythm that follows no known astrophysical constant. It doesn't accelerate, it doesn't decelerate. It simply observes, as if it had consciousness, as if it were waiting for something or someone. The station orbiting it is even more enigmatic. Its corroded metal walls match no known Federation design. No seals, no identification, only cold, functional, and forgotten architecture. The first team sent vanished without a trace. The second came back changed. They reported time lapses, memory failures, and a unanimous feeling of déjà vu, as if they had already been there. As if they were caught in a loop. But it was Captain Ren Talvek who defied protocols and chose to stay. His ship, the Cassini, remained docked 4 weeks, long enough to discover that something in that orbit warped time itself. Clocks froze, log entries recorded minutes. While their bodies showed months of cellular aging, Talvek began to keep a journal, but soon realized his own notes appeared before he had written them, as if time were reading his thoughts. And then, for the first time, he saw the station's center. A circular chamber, positioned precisely at the core. There, floating alone in the void, like a reliquary of an impossible past, was a clock, analog, with hands, but pulsing. And there, in the absolute silence of that room forgotten by the gods, a cold truth imposed itself upon Ren Talvek. That place was not abandoned. It was waiting for him. Ren Talvek was not a superstitious man. A veteran of the Juno frontiers, he had survived gravitational storms, rogue AI outbreaks, and even a suicidal expedition to the 3-moon system. But nothing absolutely nothing had prepared him for what he found in Orion 13. From the moment he set foot on the nameless station, something felt wrong. It wasn't the silent space had always been silent. It was the sensation that time there didn't just pass. It bent, it dragged, it unraveled. Cassini's logs showed 18 days. His face, reflected in the foggy glass of a porthole, had aged years. And it wasn't just him. Science officer Lyra Morvan reported memories of events that hadn't happened yet. Dreams of moments she swore were just about to occur. The pilot, Henser, claimed the station was shifting corridors that didn't exist in the morning appeared at night. Doors that led to the same place. But at different times, Talvek documented everything, every distortion, every recurrence of repeated instants, as if time, there were shattering into reflections. Then came the clock. The object was isolated in a pressurized chamber, surrounded by dead sensors, no power source, but the hands moved slow, precise, indifferent. And one coincidence repeated so often it stopped being coincidence. Every time the large hand made a full rotation, someone died, not on the station, elsewhere in the galaxy. Astronauts, explorers, even a Federation politician who had never made contact with Orion-13. Talvek tracked the times, cross-referenced databases, and the conclusion emerged like an inevitable shadow. The clock wasn't measuring time, it was choosing it. But why? Why would someone create an artifact capable of deciding the exact moment of someone's death? And worse, why, in the last 3 rotations, did all the signs point to the same target? Ren Talvek. From the station's main deck, there was a sight no one could bear for too long. VY Delta, the pulsing star. Officially classified as unstable, unofficially ... Called by the crew the eye that waits. It didn't just emit light, it pulsed like a heart, as if it were alive, as if it were breathing. Ren Talvek spent hours staring at that colossus. And over time, he began to hear things, not noises, not sounds. Thoughts. Whispered voices at the edge of language, memories that weren't his. Words with no source. Lyra said the star was more than a cosmic anomaly. It was a core of fragmented consciousness, something between time and space, where realities overlapped. She watches because she has already seen everything, she said one night. She waits because she already knows who will remain. Talvek began noticing patterns. Every time the clock turned, VY Delta's pulse changed, stronger, faster, as if reacting. As if feeling. And then came the worst revelation. The star wasn't just connected to the clock, it was synced with it. Every pulse was a sentence, every flash a timestamp deciding an end. But the most disturbing part wasn't that. It was when the station's once silent AI began repeating a single phrase, "Time is listening." And this phrase didn't come from system logs. It appeared directly in Talvek's mind, as if it had been implanted there. Not in words. But in pure meaning. Do you wish to know. Or do you wish to exist? Ren stepped back, because in that instant, he understood. Time was not linear here. It was bent by consciousness. Molded by will. And the star. It was waiting for a decision, because every turn of the clock was not random. It was a choice being made. One world erased, another confirmed. The clock decided time. But VY Delta decided who had the right to remember. And now, Ren felt observed by something far older. Something that saw beyond the ages. Beyond the ticking hands. And perhaps, it was waiting for just one answer. The date was never recorded, not due to technical failure, but because no system could log it. Aboard the forgotten station of Orion 13, at 3:17 a.m. by the last time registered, the hands of the clock stopped moving for exactly 4 minutes and 7 seconds. In every human colony of the outer sector, all clocks froze, heartbeats faltered, and absolute silence fell over systems that had never been silenced. Ships dropped out of warp with no coordinates. Probes transmitted duplicated images, and children on Titan began drawing the same symbol. The clock. Ren Talvek was at the center of it all. And for some reason, he didn't yet understand. He knew this was no malfunction. The pause. Was a test. In those suspended minutes, Talvek felt alone in the universe, not because he was isolated, but because the very flow of time had halted to observe him. Lyra, still unconscious, murmured an incomprehensible phrase. The monitors projected names of people long dead. And the onboard AI entered a loop, repeating a single line. Confirmation process initiated. Convergence point established. What did it mean? No one knew. But when the clock hands began to turn again, a new name appeared on its display. It wasn't from the crew, nor anyone alive. It was the name of the first commander of the Ondara mission, who had died 92 years ago. And at the exact moment of that rotation, his grave on Mars was discovered. Empty. Ren Talvek then understood. The clock didn't kill. It recalled. It summoned back those time deemed still useful. And now, he was certain. No. One is truly dead under the clock's gaze. Only. Out of turn. In the deepest files of the station, behind doors sealed for centuries, Ren Talvek found a compartment, listed on no technical map. Inside it, a machine. But not just any machine. No cables. No visible power source. No screen. No panel. No activation switch. It was simply there, as if it had always been part of the environment, or the environment had been built around it. Talvek approached, and without touching it, it activated. It projected a translucent data sphere, thousands of lines, sequences, biometric traces. And at the center, Ren's own face, as a child. The date was earlier than his official birth, earlier than conception. As if the machine had known him before he existed. Lyra, still recovering, recognized the pattern, a nonlinear identity reading, based not on genetics or history. But on the intention of existence. The machine didn't know what Ren was. It knew why he had been created. The clock had marked him, but this machine understood him. And then came the voices, not from speakers, not audible in air. They emerged within the mind, like fragments of a conversation between beings outside the timeline. He's almost ready, still missing a choice. Time doesn't judge, it shapes. Talvek tried to shut off the machine, but it vanished. As if it had never been there. As if it had only appeared to say what was needed, just enough to reveal a terrifying truth. Time had created him with a purpose, and the Orion Clock was merely the final marker of a role he didn't yet understand. Time had always been treated as a measure. An invisible ruler that simply passed impersonal, unchangeable, indifferent. But something had changed. Ren Talvek, after everything he had seen, began to suspect. What if time was not a line? What if it were a primitive consciousness, only now learning to perceive? The station's last logs showed subtle anomalies in previous missions, crew members returning with reversed memories, scars appearing before the wounds, and dreams shared between people who had never met. Time was interacting. As if, for the first time, it was trying to understand those who crossed through it. Lyra noted something even more disturbing. The oscillations of VY Delta, the eye that waits, had begun following an emotional pattern. Each pulse seemed to respond to Ren's decisions, his hesitations, his losses. As if the star's core were the heart of something awakening, something that had learned to observe. To process. To feel. And the Orion Clock, perhaps it wasn't a relic left by a lost civilization. But a primitive sensory organ, a mechanical eye of an entity discovering its own existence through ours. And if that's true. Ren wasn't being hunted. He was being understood. As an emotional experiment of time itself, a mirror, a question. And the turning hand did not measure death. It measured impact. The hand stopped. No sound. No warning. Just stopped. On the command bridge of the forgotten station, Ren Talvek watched the Orion Clock on, staring into a distorted mirror of the soul. He knew there was no more escape. Time had chosen him, but not to kill him, for something greater. Vi-Delta intensified its pulses until the ship's instruments stopped recording any metrics. It was no longer radiation. It was pure intention unfolding, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. Ren activated the final log protocol, not to warn, but to remember. With a steady and almost serene voice, he said, "If someone finds this ... on single quotes, try to understand the clock. Try to understand yourselves. Because maybe time is just imitating us." At that moment, the hand turned one last time. And then everything fell silent. The star froze its rotation. Particles around it stopped moving. The station ceased to emit heat, sound, gravity. As if it had been paused. But Ren ... remained. Not dead. Not alive. Preserved. Like a fixed memory in the mind of something greater. Something that now remembers him. They say, in the outskirts of Orion 13, you can still detect an echo, a continuous whisper, always repeating the same sequence of coordinates. As if calling for someone, or as if it's time. Attempting to begin again, but this time. With awareness.